Hey folks, Bob here from Florida Cam Courses. We're excited to bring you this version of our next little mini video class. We're going to be talking today about social media, and I'm pleased to introduce you to my son Rob, who is a professional social media person who's degreed in communications, and he is the one who helps me out with all this stuff. He knows way more about this than I do. We wanted to talk to you today because as managers, we don't pay a lot of attention to social media and we really need to do it. Social networking is the communication vehicle of the future, and unfortunately, we're not meeting up with our clients who feel that 20% of them feel that we're not communicating enough. So I don't know, Rob. Have we missed the boat? Has that ship sailed for community management?
No, absolutely not. And I want to thank you very much for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to speak to everybody today. I just wanted to take the opportunity to tell you guys the boat has absolutely not been missed. The ship has not sailed. There are over 3 billion people using social media right now. 500 million people use Facebook and Instagram every single day for their news updates and for their informational updates. And right now is the absolute perfect time for you to jump on board and be a participant in the social media world.
You know, as community managers, Rob, we're kind of old school. We like to write our letters and send our emails. How can this help us communicate with our clients better? I just read a report where 20% of all the people who live in common interest communities are unhappy with the communications efforts of their manager and their board. What can social media do for us that will enhance that satisfaction rate?
The biggest misconception that we have right now is that people think that certain demographics may not necessarily have the access to social media, when that's completely not the case. When you have a smartphone, you have access to social media. And a lot of times, as soon as you get your brand new smartphone, it has those applications right there. And a lot of times, people's family members are showing them how to use their social media and getting them indoctrinated into being able to communicate just through their family. Once they realize what that technology can bring to them, it expands into a whole bigger thing. And the lack of being happy with how people are being communicated with right now extends from just everybody's ability to go with what used to work in the past, things that have always worked before, when we can actually get messages to a lot of folks a lot faster and a lot more efficiently, where you could just put a update into somebody's pocket, and whether they decide to read it right then or they decide to read it in a little while doesn't really matter, but the chances of them opening it, they actually have a 75% chance of those messages actually being opened and read, as opposed to something that comes in your mailbox where if you think that might be junk mail, you will just throw it away. Here we can take information, put it right in your pocket, and we can make any kind of information available to you within seconds. So if it's community updates, if there's activities that are going on in your community, if there is emergencies, if there is things that they need to be prepared for, any kind of meeting notes from board meetings, all of those things can be sent to somebody and have it be right in their pocket.
So we know that we can get instant communication with our clients in the case of, God forbid, a hurricane that strikes Florida all the time, or perhaps the irrigation's not working, perhaps we're having a problem with the pool pump. We can send that information out to people who have signed up for our e-blast or tweets or text.
But we also have an opportunity to go live. So whether you do it when you have your board meetings, you have special functions that are going on in your community, you have the opportunity to broadcast those things live. So even if you're actually not in the building, you can still participate in the conversation. You could still watch the board meetings, you could still see the activities that are going on, and you could still pay attention to things that are happening in your community even if you're not there. And that allows you to be fully inclusive and immersive in the environment all the time.
And a lot of you use the other platform that we're not really focusing on is Skype for your board meetings, or what's now becoming the old school way of communications, the conference call. So, there's lots of technology that's going to be able to help you communicate better with your clients, with your board members, with your manager. So, Rob, I guess the next question we have in this short introduction video is, where do we start? What's the best program, platform, I don't know what it's called, that we should use just to get an entry into this? We know that a lot of the people that are starting to use social media now are the future majority of our communities. A lot of us think that in Florida all we have is senior citizens, and that's just not the case. There's plenty of millennials moving in, and millennials expect a particular level of service. We have plenty of 40-year-olds that are coming to Florida. We have a lot of 50-year-olds that retired early. So it seems like we need to communicate with a lot of people differently. What's the most popular of the social media things?
Well, far and away, Facebook is the absolute number one as far as social media goes. The average amount of people that have social media is over 2 billion people across the world use Facebook. However, the most effective way of achieving the right communication with the people that are in your communities would be to most likely ask them how they prefer to be contacted.
Like a survey?
A survey would be amazing. If you had something that you could talk to everybody and find out, well, what is it they use? Do you have a Facebook? Do you have a Twitter? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have a way that you prefer to get your information every day? And you want to plug into that network. You don't want to try and force a certain social media application on anyone, because maybe that's not something they're comfortable using. Or if you tell somebody, we only do our updates through one certain kind of social media, maybe that's not the platform they prefer to use. So the best thing you can do is just talk to as many people as you can, conduct an informal survey, see what they may have already set up within their own their cell phones, or what they have on their computers,
tablets.
11.5 million people use Facebook through their mobile Facebook account. They don't ever log on to their computer version. So some people just want to have text messages sent to them. Some people just want to have Facebook messages, or they want to see a Twitter update from your particular community. Should have a social media page that puts out updates, and maybe that's how they get their information. So there's no one way that's the most effective, because every community is going to be a little different, and what they've all been exposed to from everybody that lives in those communities has a little bit of a different idea of what they use.
So here we are. We're actually on the cusp of those community websites that we're all so impressed with are almost old-fashioned now. We're communicating with people through websites, but that means they have to go to the website to find the news. We know that we can do e-blast from a lot of websites, but not everybody signs up for it in Florida, for instance. If you're looking at this from another state, perhaps your residents don't have to sign up, but in Florida they do. So we're either pushing information to them, or we're hoping they decide that they care enough to go for it. Social media puts it out there right in front of them with the important information. Now, we do offer an online version of this course. It's called Social Media Make the Connection. That's going to give you a lot more information than we can possibly cover in this video. But I'd like to thank Rob for coming down from New York to give us his insight. He does this day in and day out for a living. He works for a lot of different companies that promote their products, their services on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. And also as a professional, for you managers out there, you got to get on LinkedIn.